All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, another NBA regular season video, and a bit of a different video, an historic video in the history of the NBA. We're going to talk about Bam Adebayo's 83-point game, eclipsing the modern record, which was formerly 81 by the late Kobe Bryant. And I just want to talk about this because this was not a nationally televised game. This was just a regular game on March 10th, a Tuesday, a day that will go down in history for sure. So there's going to be a lot of, oh my gosh, there's going to be like, that's crazy in this video. I'm going to repeat myself a lot, but I just want to talk about this game because I just finished watching the highlights. And it was crazy in the moment because it was funny because in the national broadcast, they were like, Spurs versus Celtics. Hold on, we got to tune into this. Bam's at 79, or he's at 78. He's about to get to 81. Let's tune into that. But if you like what I've said, like the video. If you have any opinions, comment down below. And if you just like the vibes, consider subscribing. So some notable things before we get into the actual game and stuff. As you can see, the starting five in front of you is not the Heat's regular starting five. The starting five for the Heat last night was Davion Mitchell, Pele Larson, Kasparis Jakuchones, Myron Gardner, and Bam Adebayo. Notable people that were out for this Heat team: Tyler Hero, Norman Powell, Khalil Ware, Andrew Wiggins, all out. Like most of the regular rotational players were out. And in this game, it was pretty back and forth in the first half. And then by like the second half, by the second quarter, and like the end of the second quarter, the Heat were already up by 20, and Bam already had like he had 30 in the first quarter, then in he had 50 by the second or beginning of the third, and he just kept running it up. And when I was watching the highlights for this game, they're playing the Wizards, and if the Wizards have anything, they have a good center. They have a good young center in Alex Sarr. And Alex Sarr and Bam Adebayo were going at it. They were going block for block. They were both hitting threes, and it was a crazy game to see both of them go at it. And if you didn't know Bam had 83, it would look like a bad game for him. Like, because like it was really him and Alex Sarr going at it. And then the majority of this game, leading up almost to like the beginning of the fourth, the Wizards did not double Bam, even though he had eclipsed the Heat record of points in a game, which was 61 or 62. He eclipsed that easily, and then he just kept going for it. And the other thing that was super interesting, and we're gonna get into this later, but is like sort of the ethical side of this, where Bam did indeed he took 43 field goals, made 20 of them, and he took 43 free throws and made 36 of them. So he took a bunch of shots. He took a bunch of threes as well, 22 taken, 7 made, and he played 42 minutes. The rest of the stat lines in front of you there: 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 9 rebounds. Um, it was crazy because, like I said, this wasn't a nationally televised game, and I got a message from somebody I know, and they were like, "Bam's at 71 or 75, something like. He's around 70." And I just messaged back with a gif of Kobe. And I was like, "Is he gonna do it?" Question mark. And then he was like, "Maybe." And I was like, "Well, I can't watch it," so I popped on my phone. I went on Twitter. I started refreshing Twitter. And just saw people's reactions. And the reactions were funny too, because the first one I saw was, "If you're not watching the Miami Heat game, turn it on right now." And then there was like a bunch of other tweets from like NBA YouTubers and stuff. And they were like, "Bam's doing what? Who's doing what? Bam has how much?" And it was all so hilarious because, again, it's just a game in March on a Tuesday. And Bam was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna have like, I'm gonna eclipse the Heat franchise record for most points in a game, and then I'm gonna eclipse the late Kobe Bryant's record um, of 81 points in a game." And to me personally, that was, to me, like, in my mind, in my like head canon, right? Bam Adebayo has the most points in the NBA game. Until I see that Wilt Chamberlain tape with a 100-point game, I don't believe it's real. It doesn't exist. This is the most points in modern NBA history, and it belongs to Bam Adebayo, who I've been very critical of in the past. We haven't talked about the Miami Heat a lot this season on this channel for good reason. They've kind of been like middling, like bottom of the pack. They're out of the play-in now with this win. It was a huge win for them. It was a huge win for them, but I always thought Bam never has ever reached his ceiling. You know, I think Bam has a lot left in the tank, even though um, he's how old now? He's 28. Yeah, he's 28. Um, about to be 30, and I always thought he had more left. He has more to his game, you know, and he's always been a number two, you know, to Dwayne Wade, Jimmy Butler. He's never really been the guy, and credit to him. In this game, he put even though if you just look at the numbers and what he did, and you don't look at the percentages or the splits or anything, he was doing everything. And I encourage you to go watch these highlights. I'll leave a link down below if you want to watch the highlights for it. But he was moving like a man on a mission. He was absolutely incredible, sensational. The three, I don't think anybody ever looks at him like a 3-point shooter, but he made 7 of them, and they were all really good, and some of them were really contested. And I, I like to think that Bam has always been again like the second best player on a championship team. He had a really good like I would sure I would say he had a moment in like 2020 in the bubble where he really became like a top tier NBA player, like we'll say like top 30, top 25 NBA player, and stamped it, fully. And you can't take him out of that sort of range. Um, this game doesn't affect any of that. I think it's a huge, obviously it's a huge milestone for him, the Heat organization, the NBA, and I think more so this is important for him. Um, he has always been a fan favorite. Um, Coming out of Kentucky, getting drafted to Miami, working his way up, being a on the Olympic team, being on Team USA, having gold medals, having gone to the finals twice, being in the situation he is now in his career, um, is absolutely insane. And I saw a funny thing where it's like if you had to make a list of players you thought that could even get like 60 plus in a game, right? um, 60 plus points in a game. Would Bam, and you had to make this list before the beginning of the season, would Bam have even been on that list? Would he even be in like the top like 50 players? I would definitely no. um, but circling back to my point, this has made Bam not just an NBA legend, one, but a certified Heat legend. He is forever a Miami Heat icon, and the Heat have had a lot of players come and go via trade or they drafted them. And sometimes they've gotten players at the end of their career, but they've still thrown on the Heat jersey. Bam has been there through it all, man. If I could go, hold on. He's been there for almost a decade. And like I said, he's been through it all. He's been there through seasons where, well, the Heat never really are truly bad, but there's some like ugly we'll call them ugly, not bad, just ugly seasons where they're like 39 and 43, 44 and 29, 40 and 32, 53 and 29, 44 and 38, 46 and 36, 37 and 45, and this season 37 and 29 on the season. And um him just being there through it all, um and again, someone like me being a critic of him and wanting him to be more and wanting him to assert himself, and this is his team, and he this isn't the regular Bam Adebayo thing. I believe his previous record was like 41 or something like that, 41 like points in a game. Um, but yeah, he's solidified himself, and there are those conversations of like, does this make him a Hall of Famer? I don't know, and I don't like that question because I feel like the regular people that talk about that stuff, like who decides Hall of Fame or who isn't, don't understand. It's the Basketball Hall of Fame. It's not the NBA. It's not the FIBA Hall of Fame. It's the Basketball Hall of Fame. You know, so like the accolades that Bam has and the stuff he's done in his career, this definitely helps a lot tremendously. Um, does it make him a first ballot Hall of Famer? No. Does it make him like a second or third? I think so. Yeah, I think so. He'll get in there. And you could say, well, they're just letting anybody in now. This is very true. I'm not going to deny they just let anybody into the Hall of Fame, at least on the basketball side of things. But yeah. Moving on to the ethics of this game. Like I had said, the Heat were blowing the Wizards out by like 20, and Bam didn't need to be in the game when he scored when he broke the Heat single scoring record in a game. They were blowing them out. He didn't really need to play in the fourth quarter, but he did. And credit to Coach Eric Spoelstra, bottom left of your screen. Um, let him play, and he was feeling good. There was no injuries, no nothing, so he just kept going. And by the time the fourth quarter rolled around, the the Wizards started triple teaming him, as you can see in the top right corner. They were trying not to let it happen. They couldn't stop it though. There were some interesting things where the Heat would intentionally foul the Wizards players just so they could get the ball back and let Bam keep going. And I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I didn't watch the game, and to be completely honest, I will say this: even though this one's on tape and the Kobe one was on tape as well, um, 5, 10, 20 years from now, I'll tell you guys what, as somebody who's been watching this game for 10 years, nobody's gonna care. Nobody's gonna care. Um, they're just not. This stuff fades with time, and it just becomes lore. And they're gonna say Bam Adebayo made 17 threes in like 30 years, you know. So like, it doesn't matter in the moment. Like, I've seen some tweets of like pessimistic people being like, "This is what's wrong with the NBA," you know. Um, they're just foul. The Heat are just fouling and this and that, and like people just love to be upset about stuff and just can't enjoy the moment of like what I will give them this. Not that Bam's a nobody, not that Bam isn't an accomplished player, but again, if you made a list of players to even get 60 plus in a game this season, Bam probably wouldn't have been on that list. Um, some people thinking it's just a random guy on a random Tuesday breaking Kobe's record. And to the casual, I think that might be very true. To Heat fans, it means a hell of a lot more than that. Bam Adebayo again has been here in Miami for so long. Um, it means a lot. It meant a lot to him. Um, his girlfriend, my favorite WNBA player, Asia Wilson, was at the game. Bam Adebayo's mother was at the game. It was a huge moment for the family, you know, and for him. And yeah, I don't even know if I have any other thoughts here. I mean, we can we can we can go through the the, the, the other games he's had this season. Leading up to this game, he was in 20 plus points against Philadelphia, against Houston, against Brooklyn twice, Charlotte, and then on the 8th in Detroit, or versus Detroit, he had 24. So he wasn't anywhere near. He didn't even have a 60-point game this season, a 40-point game this season. There's a couple 30 bombs in here. Um, he wasn't anywhere near that. And he said in his, post game, not post game, he said it when he was talking to the NBC crew, um, which was T Mac, Vince Carter, and Maria Taylor, I believe it is. Um, he was saying, in the pregame stuff, he was talking with Karan Butler, former NBA player now on the Heat coaching staff, that Karan was trying to like get him amped up, and he told Karan, he's like, I don't need to be hyped up. I know what I can do. I know who I am. I've been doing this long enough. And he came out um, last night and did this historic thing. And the other thing I just want to touch on very quickly here before we get out of here, because this video is just not. When history happens, you have to make a video about it, you know. And this was very historical in that sense. And as somebody who loves NBA history and all that jazz, to talk about this is amazing. To take a look back at Kobe Bryant's 81-point game, now the third highest scoring game in NBA history. We'll take a look at this and we'll talk about this for a moment here. If I could zoom in on it. Yeah, so Kobe had 81 points. He had one block, three steals, two assists, six rebounds. He took 20 free throws, made 18 of them, took took 13 threes, made seven of them, and he took 46 field goals. Holy hell. And he played 41 minutes. So yeah, definitively, I think now that we have the sample size, we know that it takes uh 41 minutes ish, 40, anywhere between 40 and 43 minutes to get 81 points. The way you do it is subject to criticism, um, but the when you hit that record, you hit that record, and um, I think again with time, people aren't going to care how we got to 83. It's just going to be so crazy to see. Obviously Wilt with the 100-point game. It used to be Wilt, Kobe, and those were the only two like anybody would ever talk about, and nobody's ever gotten near like the 80, even the 80-point mark. The people I can think of who've gotten like 75, 70, like Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell. The list is very short. It's very short. And even Luka's been up there near there. He's had like a couple 50s. James Harden's been close, I believe. He's been like 65, 70 at some point maybe. But Bam Adebayo, 83-point game on March 10th, 2026 will go down in history. Another fun tidbit I wanted to mention here. Bam, I believe, was either 9 or 10 years old when Kobe scored 81. So been a long time. Been a long time. There's been a lot of players that have been close. There's been some controversy around some players that could have done it in their prime, whether their coaches just yanked them because the game was over. Eric Spoelstra, Miami Heat knew the significance of this night. They're selling Bam Adebayo jerseys with 83 on it instead of his standard 13. Those are gonna go triple platinum. They're gonna sell out. An amazing night, and I hope we have access to this game at some point and we can watch a rerun of it. And it'd be really cool. So congrats to Bam, congrats to um, Kobe, I guess at this point for finally getting surpassed. We will always talk about the 81, but now there is a new single scoring game record in the modern NBA, and it's Bam Adebayo with 83 points. So yeah, the end screen should be popping up right now. Check out the video on your left, check out the playlist on your right. If you hit my little icon, the little logo right there, the little subscribe button will pop up. You can hit that. So do all that stuff, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Cheers.